Right.
So for me, that just said to me, this is a demonstration of people that are just playing for time and doing everything not to do what they should be doing. Whilst we're looking at that, you end up, okay, fortunately, after that 10 months still, then the decision came to the same decision again that, yeah, of course, amend the Section 25. So whilst we're still looking at amending Section 25, then over festive period, all of a sudden, there is another expropriation bill that has been sneaked in through the festive season. But when you look at this expropriation bill seeks to entrench an unamended Section 25. Why is it that we have an expropriation bill that talks to a Section 25 which is not amended when there is a process to amend Section 25? So in other words, you want to create a law to entrench a position which there's been agreement that that position, the Constitution, must be amended to make it explicitly clear what is it that we're saying. So what this says to me is that once again, this is a demonstration of unwillingness to actually execute on the conference resolution. So then you say to yourself, Kanti, where are we if we are going to have the highest decision-making body of the ANC making decisions, but when those decisions must be implemented, they actually get sabotaged by the ANC itself? There was the resolution on the nationalization of the Reserve Bank. That resolution has basically been abandoned. I mean, if you hear what the finance minister keeps saying about conference delegates that made this decision, it's actually quite embarrassing. The ANC resolution to establish a state bank is also not gaining any traction. So one is saying to oneself, what is this? It's almost like a PR exercise. The amount of time you take and the energy, some of us coming from the culture of the BMF, we make serious contributions into policy documents. So you go there with the belief that the input that is you're making there will be used. But instead, you spend the whole 5 days in a place, and the next thing, people, when they craft these resolutions, they either distort them or not even implement them and abandon them. Then you ask yourself, what's the point? What is it that we're actually doing here? Triple PFA continues to be a bugbear. One would have thought that after such a transformation forecast conference, that 2018 was going to see the repeal of the Triple PFA or the review of the Triple PFA, but none of the such happened. Instead, we have the Minister of Finance that goes overseas and tells everybody that actually nothing is going to change. So you say to yourself, but where are we here? Mining Charter. Mining Charter has postponed the transformation for another 5 years. How can it be that we have an ANC government that does not challenge a court decision on the issue of once empowered, always empowered? That concept, in my view, is a fraudulent concept. It means if you have a black participant in the equity, as an equity partner in a particular mining company, as an example, and if those black people sell their stake in that company, once empowered, always empowered says, even though you've sold your 30% or 26%, this company is going to be deemed as if you have not sold. This is just pure fraud. It's a serious misrepresentation. It means companies can continue to be as white as they want to be, and the law is going to recognize them as having been empowered. And we have a situation like that that is not challenged. So it can only mean one thing, that there is no seriousness on the issue of transformation. Who would have thought that an ANC government would stand side by side with an Australian company against our own people in Kolobeni? All the Kolobeni people really wanted, all that really wanted was to be fully consulted so that the minerals underneath the soil of Kolobeni must not just be extracted and they just become scavengers. They wanted to be fully consulted so that the proceeds of all that, they have a decent stake in it. But we're sitting here with a situation where our own government is fighting our own people in the rural areas because they are siding with an Australian company that wants to extract and exploit the people there. And you would have thought that our government, with the background that we have in this country, they would be fully behind the Toloboni people to avoid exploitation of our people. But instead, the government is siding with this company. How is that? Where are the people going to run to? One would have thought, I'm moving on, one would have thought that with the VBS saga, that what would have been done there is to deal with the corrupt elements in that whole situation and save the bank and save the jobs. But instead, they are just destroying everything. So in other words, it's another thing again to carry on the narrative that black people are incompetent and corrupt and all this, when in fact there were certain rotten potatoes that should have been weeded out, and then this thing ran properly. Now, the only black bank that was around is being closed down. Market dominance again has been allowed on the media space with the closure of ANN7, where ANN7 was just being bullied by multi-choice. You know, if they had said ANN7 or Afro Worldview, if they had said that we are corrupt, if they had said that we haven't got enough audience, if they had said anything, there are too many complaints and all of this, maybe, no, multi-choice just decides, because we want to shut you down, we shut you down. One would have thought that a leader of society would have intervened, not for Mzwanele Manyi, but for the people employed. 500 odd people ended up losing their jobs. Leader of society did not say one word to save those jobs. Young people, my heart goes out to all those people that lost their job, and something that could have been avoided. I really want to, in fact, take this opportunity to apologize to all the employees of the New Age, Afro Voice, of ANN7, Afro Worldview, for the trauma that they were put through. I want to apologize to their children who were kicked out of school because of this abrupt arrangement. I want to apologize to their mothers and fathers that were depending on their own children that were working in these institutions. All of this could have been avoided only if there was not a cruel and a nefarious agenda behind. And I'm sad that the African National Congress never said one word to try and arrest the situation. 500 jobs got lost in the process. Media diversity has been dealt a severe blow under the watch of the ANC. And this is one of the examples I just said. People in Gauteng have been complaining about the e-tolls day in, day out, but the African National Congress has turned deaf ears. They just don't want to listen. Kliptown, the birthplace of the Freedom Charter that the ANC is so proud of, is as dilapidated now as it was in 1955. It's a shame. One would have thought a place that has created such a monumental document would have been a shining example of it should be what Tito Mboweni keeps showing us what Kigali looks like. Why can't he create a Kigali in Kliptown? He's got the money, he controls the resources. Is it because they don't care for our people? What is it? I don't know. People of Alexander Township and elsewhere continue to live in squalor and in dangerous floodplains, whilst the politicians are driving around in German sedans. How is that possible? You know, even in the Eastern Cape, when I drive from East London to King Williamstown, I always look along the freeway. There's a village there called Duncan Village. That village has never seen any improvement ever since I've known that place. No improvement. You just ask yourself, Kanti, where is this budget going to? A failed housing project near Dube Hostel has become ruins where Nyaope addicts, thugs and rapists rule supreme. Our young children and women get raped there daily. And these are the matters that I have raised with the leadership of the ANC long before DA took over this place. In Bramfisher, near Meadowlands, people are living on waterlogged area, damp areas, and these matters were raised, but nobody doing anything about it. You get told one story day in, day out, but no solution. Instead, you get all these faction-based so-called cleanup things that keep rupturing the organization, causing disunity, causing all kinds of chaos. This cleanup that everyone is preoccupied with is actually faction-based, depends which faction you are in, then the cleanup happens, something happens to you, but in other areas, even if there is a malfeasance, nothing happens. For instance, there's rampant malfeasance at National Treasury, as exemplified by 1.7 billion rand spent with nothing to show in the IFMS project. But there's not even one sentence of rebuke from the African National Congress to say to the National Treasury, what are you doing, who's accountable? The people that are responsible for this are in the ANC, this process. The people that have cost us 1.7 billion, nothing to show, absolutely nothing to show. And this is not old stuff, this is 2018 stuff I'm talking about. I'm not getting things from 1994. This is 2018. The figure of 1.7 billion was recorded there. Our children fall in pit toilets and no one is held accountable for that. So our people have died on the Life in Esidimeni project. That Life in Esidimeni is serious tragedy. Who has been held accountable for that? Why is it that when it's others, there's an action taken, when it's others, it's almost like nothing has happened? So I've come to a conclusion that indeed the ANC is tired, the ANC is fatigued, the ANC has reached a point of saturation, the ANC has lost its hegemony, the ANC has lost its moral compass. The ANC is actually now actively reversing our gains. If the truth be told, actually, ANC exhibits all the signs of being captured by imperialist forces. The ANC is trapped and unable to liberate itself from the claws of its captors, and therefore should no longer be trusted with the noble task of completing the liberation project of our people. Let's allow the ANC to retire and let's usher in younger, fresh and uncaptured blood. Yes, I'm a member of a church, so I will give you a scripture. Matthew 5:13, I will give it to you in Xhosa. Matthew 5:13, Mateus Ahlosislam, verse 13. Niyitywa ehlabathi nina. Ke ukuba ityuwa ithe ayabanasongo, yothiwa nina ukuvakaliswa. Ayisalungele nto. Ukulahlwa phandle kuphela inyathelo ngenyawo ngabantu. We need a fresh approach to complete this historic mission of liberating our people from the bondage of the legacy of apartheid and colonialism. Let's allow the younger generation to lead. Let's allow those without a Codesa baggage to lead. Yes. I present to you the African Transformation Movement, my new political home. ATM is the only organization with the proper credentials to take us forward. ATM has no baggage or history of corruption and unfulfilled promises. ATM has values that are very sound and universal. ATM is funded by its own members. Not by wealthy business people with their own agendas. So there's hope that because there's ATM is going to ensure that the will of the people is what is actually going to be is going to transpire, not the will of the funder. ATM is a breath of fresh air led by young people who prioritize peace in dealing with others. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the president of the ATM.